Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the recent archaeological material, sensational findings in old capital of Georgia, in Mtskheta, where was found the certain synagogue dated to 3rd, 4th centuries AD. In written sources, namely in Conversion of Kartli, which was compiled in 4th, 5th centuries, is mentioned date of arrival of Jews in Georgia. This is the only exclusion in historical chronicle in which indicates that the Jews arrived in 169 in the times of 11th pagan king. Mtskheta was turned into city. Of special importance was the fact that the Jewish community was established in Mtskheta, and a region, special region, was established. The source indicates that on confluence of Mtkwari and Aragi rivers is the place where Jews have settled. They had their synagogue, and the source mentions that it wasn't just a house for saying a prayer, but it was stationary synagogue dedicated for community where not only education was carried out of young Jews, but all religious activities were carried out, and blessing was carried out, blessing of bread, of wine, and Kaddish. It is confirmed archaeologically, and of course it is very important. This is the very first information, and I give you this information to the Jewish community, and actually those accounts found in written sources are approved by archaeological findings. You will have an opportunity to visit, as I know, to have an excursion to Mtskheta. Getsemania is such a place in Mtskheta, approximately at 10-meter height over Kura River. Here is a scheme you see the scheme of the site, where you can see ruins of the temple, including this is very interesting amulet with Aramaic inscription dating to 4th century. It's made of gold, and it speaks about, inscription speaks Abraham's daughter Sarah, and that it is amulet. It comprises 27 Hebrew lines, Hebrew text, and it was to preserve Abraham, his daughter, and his family. This was a great discovery in all times. It was deciphered by academician Kote Tsereteli. Here also was found the artifact that can be linked with synagogue. These are column pieces, fragments, and the source defines exactly the site where the synagogue was built. So I will be again repeated that the source mentioned that here was the temple of Jews, and here was also Jew cemetery, and all the details, artifacts have been found during excavations. Of importance is the fact that together with column fragments, thick fields were found which indicate at existence of Greek orders or entablements. This is of importance because according to the written source it is defined that what type of the synagogue was built. The anonymous chronicler writes that it was stoa, or a special kind of building on columns that was roofed, decorated with architectural ornamentation. I should also mention that were discovered not only Jewish graves, but gravestones with Hebrew inscriptions, but Hazan is mentioned, and Hazan, you know, is the same cantor, and there is a depiction of challah, the sacred wine, and wine in chalice. It indicates that it wasn't just an ordinary temple, but the blessing of bread and wine was carried out. And on Sabbath, on Saturday, you know that Jews are reading the prayer. They are chanting actually, and documentally we have established that they had a cantor who organized the leading of Jewish prayer. And one more detail, very important one, the Jewish galut or community played a significant role in promoting Mtskheta to a city level. The geological data mentioned that the community lived at a site that coincides with the meandra of Aragvi. It's some 700 meters far from today's center. So the ruins of synagogue were found. Now part of these ruins under the Getsemania church partially, and actually this synagogue was very well decorated architectural building, and the Jewish community had promoted city to the city level. Plinius Secundus is the 1st century. He writes that Mtskheta is just a settlement, not as a city, not as a polis, only just a settlement. On Ptolemaeus' geography, you can find Tabula Pentigiana. This is map. You can see inscription that Mtskheta is a polis. And Jews in Mtskheta, in the city of Mtskheta, I don't mean Iberia, because since 6th century Jewish community establishes, autonomous community establishes in Iberia in the 6th century BC already. I mean Mtskheta. So the revival or promotion of the city can be linked with establishing settlement of Jews in Mtskheta, and Professor Vakhtang Nikolaishvili has carried out excavation in this area. He has revealed a street 20 meters in length and 3 meters in width, with houses standing side by side. Their floors are plasters and they are roofed with tiles. And in one of these houses was found a room with desks, with benches along the walls, and on these desks was found a pottery vessel, oinochoya. They found obereg or amulet on gold sheet, and it repeats Solomon's words and asks and 4 times there is repeated names of Abraham and Sarah, his daughter, and asks them to be protected from evil eye, to preserve the family from evil eye. So this individual had opportunity with the main rabbi to enter the site, and you have seen this tablet already, and it is preserved in Mtskheta Museum. And with this I will finish my short information and will mention at the same time that synagogue in sources is well described, and if the Batoni Lado chairman will give me opportunity to add one more detail, the detail that is mentioned in the written source. In the source it is described that before the synagogue there was a tree kilamoi. In Hebrew is kilamoi as well, or sweet tree in Georgian commentaries. It was used in synagogue for smoking, and the tree botanically isn't found in Georgia, and probably it was brought from Israel by Jews, planted in the garden of synagogue. Architecturally, it was a stoa, well decorated or richly decorated, 90 square meters, oriented northeast, and here's one conflict that between proselytes and Jewish community, special conflict happens, and it is himself Cohen Abiatar describes it. The source exactly mentions like the protocol and mentions that Abiatar mentions Eskilamoi tree that covered all the store, and I asked the painters, I myself asked the painters to reconstruct the picture of the temple, and he writes that this tree was cut down. This was such a big tragedy, and this synagogue, especially because, and this synagogue became the first Christian church in Georgia. Chronicle says that because of knowledge of Hebrew language, Saint Nino stayed in Tbilisi. In second synagogue, it was a city. Then she arrived to Mtskheta and erected a cross exactly on the ruins of the synagogue, and documentarily. And so these are ruins of the temple under which this old synagogue is buried. After it, the Jewish community leaves Mtskheta and settled throughout Georgia. This was all I wanted to speak about. Thank you for your attention.